from the elders to speak. Thank you. My name is Tony, for those of you who don't know me. Every time I'm in town, I come here to serve and to study and to learn and to be amongst family. We have been talking about a very interesting subject for the past 2 weeks. We've been talking about African to unify the subject today. I will use my ancestral understanding from Africa, my ancestral understanding from the United States of America, to try to bring the subject matter together. Thank you for being a part of this. Before I say anything else, I want to say and stress the importance of us realigning, rebuilding our relationship between the African and the diaspora. It's very, 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 very important. Our relationship should be unified upon our own natural understanding, not the understanding of someone else. It's very important that we understand this. So let me get into the subject matter. I hope I can have your undivided attention. I hope that you will hear me in the spirit that I'm bringing the message. I want you to focus on what I'm saying, because I am not here just by coincidence. I am not here in 2021 just because I want to stand in Ghana. Yeah. I'm here as part of the return of our ancestors. And I'm representing them today, and I'm standing firm on their shoulders. So please hear me for what I have to say to you. My title again today is African Spiritual Technology. By African, I mean the very land that we stand on. By African, I mean the very inception by which all humanity was created. By African, I mean the origin of civilization, the origin of all humanity. We stand on that land. It is no question today that the Genome Project of 2003 in the United States of America proved undoubtedly that all humans have their origin in East Africa. More specifically, Ethiopia, Ugandan region. This is according to DNA, not what I'm saying. It is scientific data that they've collected that has determined the origin of all humanity, not some humans. The origin of all humanity is here in Africa. So we're standing on that understanding. So by African, I mean the origin of humanity, the origin of civilization, origin of humanity. When I say African, this is what I mean. I am not saying it based upon the creation and destruction by Cypriot Africanus, whom the continent is named after. I'm saying it because it relates directly to you, because you are the originator. I'm only using the name so that you can identify with what I'm saying. African spiritual technology. By spirit, we mean your state of mind, your state of existence, your state of understanding, the very energy by which God brought you into existence is spirit. By spirit, we mean the energy that's in your DNA that allows you to call on the gods of old. Yes. And those gods of old respond. By spirit, this is what we mean. Powerful. Technology. What is technology? African spiritual technology. Technology is the science that is used to move civilizations forward. Technology is the collection of science and ideas that people use for practical purposes. Can I give you an example? Your cell phone is science. It was developed and designed to give the science a practical purpose. So by African spiritual technology, what do we essentially say? We're saying that the spiritual system of old that is on the inside of Africans is in fact the most advanced technology on the face of the earth. Yes. Our problem is that we no longer use the science. But what I'm telling you today is that we have to go back home. We have to return to our roots, Sankofa. We have to go back and get the science, because the technology that works for the Europeans does not work for us. Our technology is very different from his technology. And we have to find a way today to go back and get our historical, ancestral technology and rely upon it and call upon it, because the technology of today is no good for the African. And as long as we continue to embrace their technology, as long as we continue to embrace their science, we will never advance as a people. As long as we continue to take on their ways, as long as we continue to take on their wares, we'll never move forward as a people. The only way that we can move forward as a people, we must go back and reclaim our African spiritual technology. Let me give you some examples. As we came out of East Africa and we migrated down into Egypt. Egypt is lower now. Uganda, Ethiopia is upper now, because it's the beginning of civilization. It's the beginning of the origin of all humanity. So as we started to go lower now into Egypt, we started to lose bits and pieces of our technology. So the pyramids that you see in Cairo, Egypt, over 7,000 years old, that was low-level technology for the African. The Sphinx that's in front of the pyramid, nearly 18,000 years old. Let me say that again. Yeah. Nearly 18,000 years old. Do you know that your ancestors built the pyramids? Do you know that your ancestors built the Sphinx? And it was through advanced spiritual technology that they were able to do it. Let me just talk to you for a little bit. Please stay with me. Please stay with me. The average block on the pyramid, 2,500 pounds. Can you imagine? 2.5 tons. Who picked it up? How were they able to move it? 0.0001 within an inch of accuracy. How were they able to do it? You see, when you rely on spiritual science, it's far more advanced than any other science. Because the spiritual science, my priest, can claim the knowledge of your ancestors. It can go back and get the knowledge and DNA from those who built the pyramids. Many of you have heard of Imhotep. He was the builder of the first step pyramid in ancient Egypt. You know about him. He was also the first human to perform brain surgery over 5,000 years ago. He performed brain surgery. How was he able to perform brain surgery over 5,000 years ago? We know the answer now. The scientists know the answers. No technology more advanced than that. You come from that. And if you come from that, why are we still claiming European science and technology? We should get away from it. It makes us so good. This is not to knock the European. You got to give him credit for what he's done. He doesn't have the ability to interpret the sun, the stars, and the moon like we do. He doesn't have it. You have something called melanin. He doesn't have it. You absorb the sun rays. And within the sun rays, there's information. That information increases your ability to relate to nature as a whole. No other people can do that like you. I cite that based upon the teachings of Dr. John Hendrik Clark. And even I forget his name, the French scientist who later came out and said the pineal gland is the God organ.
The pineal gland is in part responsible for your melanin. There's something called melanocytes here. They're cells. They receive information. Some of your ancestors would tell you that in about 2 days, a big rain is coming. Y'all are not listening. When they would say to you, a big storm is coming in about 2 days. When they would say to you, my elbow is aching. Bad weather is on the horizon. When they would say that to you, it was because the melanocytes would interpret the information that was coming from the universe, and they would make decisions based upon that science. What I'm telling you, that's African spiritual technology. That is African spiritual technology at its best. Let me slow down because I want everybody to be able to understand me. I'll slow my speech, but I want you to understand the importance of African spiritual technology. You cannot master African spiritual technology studying the European. You cannot master African spiritual technology mimicking the work of the European. That very same technology, follow me here. You heard of George Washington Carver, the black scientist that ended up in the Tuskegee after Booker T developed Tuskegee. He went to Tuskegee University and he studied. He was a scientist there. He took the peanut, you call it the groundnut here, and he developed 300 products from it. But here's what I need you to understand, please. I don't want you to run off of this one. Please understand this. You see, because you're so melanated, come brother, come, right here, come. Because you're so melanated, come. Because you are so melanated. Brother, please, right here, come for 1 second, please. Yes. Because you are so melanated, you collect, I want you two to stand beside each other. I just want to show something. Right here, stop. Look. You collect 100% of all light waves. 100%. Every frequency from hertz to gamma rays, you can interpret it. Scientific fact. The European, he operates from low frequency. He can only collect very small frequency. But you can collect every frequency under the sun. Now listen, very important that you understand. When you look at his complexion, and you look at his complexion, this right here is due to something in you called frequency generation. Hold on, I'll explain. It's not as complicated as it seems. Your pineal gland determines your melanin, your pigmentation, along with melanocytes. You see, as your pineal gland receives light through the eye, it produces a perfect chemistry, sending it right here to determine how dark or how light to make you, to protect you from the sun. This right here is one frequency. Are you following? This darker brother is another frequency. You do that here. Listen, please don't be offended. Because I know y'all love Europeans. I know you love them. Please don't be offended. You love them so much that you put them on the back of your trotro bus. I know. You love them so much that you put them at your school. And you say worship them. You love them that much. So I'm going to hurt some of your feelings. But today we must hurt you in order to heal you. You see, so what happens? The European, he cannot do this. You see, when the sun hits him, he burns. When the sun hits you, you absorb and you interpret. Are you following me? Right now, there's very vital nutrients coming from the sun, hitting you, going into your biological system that you're unaware of. But those very nutrients you get from the plants. You get from the pineapple, you get from the orange, you get from the yam, you get those very nutrients. But the very nutrients are coming from the sun, coming into your system. But what I want you to see is the change in frequency. Frequency is a technology. The darker you are, the more information you can absorb. Why is darkness important? Thank you. You can sit. Thank you. Give them a hand, please. Why is darkness so important? I want to take you back briefly. I told you in the beginning, the Genome Project in the United States, 2003, that collected all scientists to determine what civilization started. It started in East Africa, somewhere around Ethiopia and Uganda. Now, it's important that you understand, the first man created, he had to have the complexion like this. It's his God. How do I know? Let's study. The word Ethiopia. Ethiopia. It means here, burnt, Ethio face. Burnt face. Are you following me? So the people in that region had what? Burnt faces. You look at Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, which is the name of Egypt given by the Greeks. Kemet means land of the blood. Why is this so important that you understand? Because color becomes very important as it relates to technology. You see, many people will say, color doesn't matter, this is a lie. You cannot trick me on that. Think about this. Your very melanin is a superconductor. A superconductor in electricity. A superconductor as it relates to phones, iPad. The new phones that are being developed, they will be using melanin. Gold, the Gold Coast, which Ghana was once called. The Gold Coast, you pride yourself in gold, and it's good. But gold is about maybe $34 a gram. $35, $36 a gram. Anybody know how much melanin is for 1 gram?
Oh, yeah.
How much? $354 for 1 gram. 10 times more expensive than gold. Are you listening? 10 times more expensive than gold. It is so super in regards to its ability to conduct that the big spaceships that China sends up in space,
it's coated
that
in
America
melanin.
sends up in space, is coated with melanin. Like this sister at the bottom of the space shuttle, like this brother, you see melanin. It's the only thing that can endure the heat. Do you understand? Because it can dissipate the heat better than any other material. So when we start talking about African spiritual technology, and you look in the mirror, you are the most advanced technologist in the world today. You are the most advanced because you have what God has given you from the very beginning, but you stopped utilizing it and you started relying on the European. You rely on him for your religion. Whether you be Muslim, whether you be Christian, whether you be Jew, you rely on him to teach you your religion. Please don't be offended. What a fool. Please don't be offended. What a fool. Imagine the son. He's only 2 days old. I'm 45, you say. My son is 2 days old. How do I look allowing my son to lead me? You see, this is what you're doing. You're allowing your son 2 days to lead you. You're 45 years older than him, but yet he leads you. It makes no sense whatsoever. Let me wrap up like this. Go back to George Washington Carver in Tuskegee. He was able to listen real good because of all the melanocytes. Melanocytes are cells. Cells store information. You have over 70 trillion cells on your body. Each cell is embedded with information. George Washington Carver, because he was dark complexion, he was able to communicate with the plants. Oh, you have to read his writings. He was able to communicate with the plants because this is frequency, remember. And you can read from hertz to gamma rays. The entire spectrum you can interpret. So he was able to communicate with plant systems. And because he was able to communicate with the plant, he was able to extract information. And when he extracted the information, he put that technology to practical use. And that's what technology is, using science for practical purposes. And that's what George Washington Carver was able to do. Let me share this with you. George Washington Carver was such a brilliant scientist. Such a brilliant scientist. That the United States, everybody should, you gotta hear this. Please, everybody has to hear this. He was such a brilliant scientist that the United States of America decided to castrate him.
So he can have no children.
So that he could not have offspring. He could not have offspring. Because they did not want him to produce great African spiritual technology. Are you following me? That's why many of the Africans that are in developing countries on the continent are being miseducated, are being misled. Many of the Africans in the United States of America and the diaspora are being put in prisons. They don't want you to reproduce the immortal God. They don't want you to do it. Because they know that once you start producing the immortal God, that Africa will rise. That the people of Africa will rise. This is very important. I got two other examples and I'll leave you. Are y'all okay?
Yeah, you're okay.
Listen, it's very important. Everybody that knows me, where's the brother? Gone. Okay, another brother. Anyway, everybody that knows me, I make it plain that I'm only here because of my ancestors. I make that plain. I make that known. They protect me. They guide me. And they show me the way as they have been doing. My family has relied on ancestral veneration for years in the United States of America. One of the most advanced pieces of technology I want to share with you, then I go to the Mountauk Indian, is prayer. Praying as you're praying here. But I have to explain something a little different. Kanita, it's very important that we understand. You see, when we call on our ancestors, please understand, they're not in bricks.
No.
Come with me, please. Remember the Genome Project of 2003. When we call on our ancestors, our ancestral gods, which we're right by calling unto, do you know where they are? They're within you. Please. They're within you. That means the gods that you're calling on, they have a specific name. I'm going to come to you in a minute. They have a specific signature. If you know the name, you can call on that proper God and he will come. Some of you in here that are Christians, you heard the term the God of Abraham. Haven't you heard that? Come on and talk to me. You've heard that. You've heard the God of Israel. Are you telling me there's a God of Ethiopia too? Oh yes, of course. You see, the gods have specific names. They trick you with these books. You're right by calling on your God. But this is where we go astray. We think our gods are out there somewhere. The gods are internalized. They're in our DNA. I told Sister Carnita I would not use the Bible. See, I like to teach from the Bible. It's very important because the very book that made you sick can also heal you. You see, the very book that made you sick can heal you because you can identify with the book. Huh? I'll give you a quick example. Quick example. If you look at the book, just briefly, Carnita, I won't take much time. You have to give me permission to say this. Can I have permission? Oh, she trusts the ancestors. Real quick, listen. You've heard the name, and I teach on this a little. I'll just use it briefly. You heard them say, in the name of Jesus. Huh? I'd like to share this with you real quick. There's no one inside of you called Jesus. Are you following? There's no man in you called Jesus. But there's something in you that Jesus possessed. You understand? And what the ancient Christians were saying is that you can call those powers up based on a specific name. You understand what I'm saying? There's nobody in you called Muhammad. But you can call those powers up based on a specific name. And this is why DNA becomes so important as it relates to African spiritual technology. My last point, and I'm done. You may not have heard of the Montauk Indian. For a long time, they tried to convince us that the Indians originated in Asia. No. They're lying. That's so bad. You'll find that the Indians originated in Africa. You also find that the original Indians and Native Americans that were in the United States of America originally were very dark. As Columbus and Europeans conquerors came in, they raped our women, they became lighter and lighter and lighter. There was a group of Indians up in New York in an area called Montauk, Long Island. They were so spiritually gifted, Carnita, that the European scientists, they built a fence around their community. Please hear me good. They built a big fence around their community because they did not want them to share the science. The Montauk Indian, they were used in war to tell the American military where the enemies were. Do you know why? Because they were heavily melanated. And they can pick up the vibrations and rhythms and determine where the enemies were. Not only that, they could go 1,000 years behind and 1,000 years ahead with their spiritual system and show you things that were coming and show you things that were happening over 1,000 years ago. This is African spiritual technology. And for you, we have to continue to focus on our African spiritual technology. Because if we don't, it will be lost. That's why it's important that you come here on Sundays, so that we can learn, so that we can absorb. But what you have to do is bring your children, so that your children can learn, so that they can study with these new systems. This is a... How many of you have heard of Washington, D.C.? You all have received it. It's in the United States of America. The United States of America is also ancient Egypt written up. The Egypt that's in North Africa is laid out a particular way based on star system. In the United States of America, Washington, D.C. is laid out the same way. You may not be aware that it was a black man by the name of Benjamin Banneker who was born in Baltimore, but his family were slaves. He comes from West Africa. How does Benjamin Banneker understand as a slave how Egypt, ancient Egypt, was laid out? He's never been there. How does he know? You see, that's that African spiritual technology that I'm telling you about. There's nothing more advanced than that. That's why it's important that we harvest our energies, focus on these spiritual systems that our ancestors gave us, and use those spiritual systems to do what's best for the continent of Africa and our families abroad. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah.